Have you ever walked into a room and completely forgot what you came to the room for?
Constantly, at least twice a day.
I also think it's ironic that I'm the one asking this question because I probably do this the most out of both of us.
Oh man, especially like you also like you will have a great idea and then I'll be like, Jenny, you should write that down. You're like, no, I'll remember it. I'm smart enough.
Or you're like, oh no, it's
it.
such a good idea. Like I'll be able to remember it. That was such a good idea. There's no way I could forget it. And I forget it
all the time. You get so mad too when I ask you to write it down. It's kind of funny.
I hate organizing. I hate it so much.
Today we're talking about why you should quit trying to remember everything. We're going to talk about our methods, what we do, and hopefully you can learn something from it.
Roll the intro.
Welcome to the Let's Quit podcast.
Quitting is not always a bad thing.
If you have the right mindset, quitting can be the most powerful tool you have on your journey to success. It's certainly been helpful for us.
Whether it's flying through hurricanes, building our businesses, or just trying to get to bed on time, we're always trying to level up and improve our lives.
This is the show where we share the lessons, experiences, and friends that have helped us live this incredible life. So let's quit the bad and grow the good together. All right, we'd like to take a moment just to thank our patrons, those of you that support the show via Patreon. We appreciate you. You can go to patreon.com/jennieanddavis if you'd like to consider supporting the show. As of now, we are still listener supported 100%. Even if we had a sponsor, we still couldn't do the show without the help of the supporters on Patreon.
Absolutely. So, you guys mean everything to us.
Absolutely. So thank you so much. And if you're new to the show, please don't pay us money. If you're new to the show, just leave us a review. Let us know what you like, what you don't like. We'd love to improve and hear your thoughts. You can send us an email if you want to letsquitpodcast@gmail.com. You can also leave, hopefully, a 5-star review on the podcasting app of your choosing. That would really help the show out. Get to share it with more people and that kind of thing.
And that will be our last request. If you like the show, share it with a friend. If you have another podcasting buddy who you like to, discuss what you've listened to this week, shoot them our episode.
Right. So with that, what have we done this week, Jenny?
This week has been like the week of the cutting boards.
Oh my gosh.
I know that's almost every week for us, but this week especially, we went out selling a lot of boards to realtors. So like going to
giving, not selling.
Yeah, I know. Giving with the intent of eventually selling to realtors. So we'd go to a lot of open houses over the weekend and we'd just go one after another, boom, 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 line them all up. And give them a cutting board with their initial engraved on the front and then their like realtor information on the back and saying, hey, this is what we can provide you for your closing gifts.
Like, and that's getting kind of difficult because we're starting to realize that we look up these open houses based on the listing agent. So Jenny's got a little website. She finds where there's open houses and we find the listing agent, and that's who we make the board for. Well, the listing agent isn't always the one on Sunday afternoons.
Especially when they're a part of a big team. So some of these agencies have like 10 and 12 person teams.
Right. So the person doing the open house is not always the listing agent. So we're showing up to these houses sometimes with a board engraved with somebody's name on it, and the person in the house that we're trying to talk to is not the person who we have the board for. And it just flops. Like we've tried a couple different ways of like, oh, well, like get us your information and we'll send you a board and try to do the same explanation. It just doesn't stick because
not as well.
We're sending them, we're talking about this in the YouTube video last week. We send the real estate agent on an emotional roller coaster. And if their name is not on the board, they're not going to go for the ride.
Right. If the gift isn't for them, I mean, you can say, oh, imagine the gift is for you all day long. But if the gift's not for you, it's different,
So we've tried a couple different things. I mean, it's still a good strategy when it works. When we find that the listing agent is the one that we hand the board to, it works flat out.
They are like flabbergasted. They can't believe we're giving them a free board. They fall in love. They want our information.
But about half of the open houses we go to, it's hit or miss of whether or not you're going to get the listing agent. So we've got a couple different ideas in the works on how we're going to address that. Maybe some higher yield meetings so that we're not driving all over town on Saturdays and Sundays. I don't know. Just stay tuned. That's what the YouTube channel's for. But just slowly trying to get the business off the ground. So a lot of real estate work this week trying to get these cutting boards sold.
Yep. Also, we use the laser engraver a ton because of all these cutting boards we're doing and giving away. That's a lot of laser engraving. And the Glowforge has held up pretty well. I was impressed. We can do absolutely everything we need to as of right now.
Right. So there's a laser engraver called a Glowforge. That's like the name brand of it. And it's nice. It's a toy. It really is. Like, I'm sorry. It's for hobbyists. It's for bored housewives who like to craft. It's for that stereotype of, for makers too. It does some pretty impressive stuff. It'll cut through plywood and all sorts of stuff.
Right.
But
acrylic and
I'm kind of making light of it. But it does a good job, but it does not do a lot of repetitive work very well.
It's a little slow. It's fast and you can adjust its speed settings to like go faster, but it's still like...
It's just a big process because it's an enclosed container. So every time we have to engrave a board, we've engraved both the front and the back. So we have to open it up, line it up.
And then you're re-indexing. You're re-indexing where it needs to go and finding centers and all that kind of
But on a larger
stuff.
Industrial laser, you can fit 5 or 6 cutting boards on the bed. And then line all your text up for all 6 cutting boards and hit go, and it burns all 6 at the same time instead of just one by one by one by one. So we're very quickly realizing that once we start selling a lot of cutting boards, we are going to need a bigger, faster laser.
Right. Like, don't get us wrong. We're very appreciative of the Glowforge that we have right now because it definitely gets the job done.
We couldn't have even started this had we not had that Glowforge.
All in all, it really is fast because before this, we had a CNC engraver. So basically it's just like a spinning
nightmare
bit that like literally digs out parts of the wood to engrave.
That was way slower.
It worked, but it was way slower. So we are in a much better boat than we were before when we were only using our X-Carve CNC router. But, you always want to be leveling up, thinking of the next step.
And then the scary part is that the next laser that we need to get is going to be a $25,000 purchase.
Yeah.
And that's where it gets scary because that's going to be our very first large industrial tool purchase. So not that we're like super scared of it or anything. It's just...
It is kind of a shell shock when you're used to like, tools for between like 500 and like 2,500.
That's fine. Yeah. Even the Glowforge itself, it was like 5,000 or 6,000.
Yeah.
So we're okay with spending less than 10 grand, but jumping straight up to 25, that'll...
And the fact that there's like scary. Not much that we want in the middle either is just
there's no products in the middle. There is not a reliable like US based company that can do service on it for less than $25,000. And the reason they're so expensive is because they're doing the work that a couple of employees can do. And a machine is replacing employees. And
so it's not that the machine actually is worth $25,000. It's that it does $25,000 worth of work that you're not paying an employee to do.
Right. We could pay an employee to babysit our laser all day and get just as much work done. But it's, you're spending money on payroll and stuff like that. So they understand that. So, $1,000 a month payment on a $50,000 piece of equipment is still cheaper than hiring somebody full time at minimum wage.
Right.
So anyway, welcome to the world of business.
Stay tuned and see how we end up playing this game. So
yeah, we're just starting to see the need for the next tool.
Yeah.
We don't need it yet, but it's on the horizon.
Yeah, definitely.
We also built and sold a stovetop cover. We got that. So your brother actually reached out to us and was like, "Hey, I've got these friends. I've got a friend, and her parents want this stovetop cover. It's just a big. It's essentially a gigantic cutting board that just goes on top of the stove. It's called a noodle board. Sometimes.
That's what I was just about to say. I was like, did you guys know that's called a noodle board? Like, never in my life would I have guessed to call it a noodle board.
I guess because you roll out noodles and you need a really big area to roll it out. I don't know. I'm just guessing. But
it's me.
I don't need to know what it is to build it.
Right.
So
I'll just tell you how much it costs.
Right. So we built one of those and shipped it off. That was some pretty easy money because we already have a procedure for cutting boards. We had just went and bought stock the other day for more cutting boards. So we just built this extra large cutting board and shipped it off. So that was really fun. That was a nice boost.
Yes.
Easy money. And we also, and of course, if you've watched our YouTube channel, you know that this week we really went out on a limb and we built a cutting board for a cooking YouTuber, much, much, much larger than we are, several million subscribers. Joshua Weissman, if you've seen him, he's on TikTok. also.
Yes, and obviously he's on Instagram and all that stuff too, but he's really popular for his like cooking tutorials, and then he'll do different categories like how to make certain foods but better. Like I think one time he got the Popeyes chicken sandwich and was like how to do the Popeyes chicken sandwich but better while making it from home. So his videos are always really upbeat. They're really funny. They've got kind of like a goofy, like happy-go-lucky kind of feel to them. So we enjoy them.
So we made him a cutting board, and we're trying to send it to him because he doesn't have a P.O. box or anything for fan mail. So we're depending on our social media followers. If you're one of them, please consider helping us out, tagging him in something. We just want to get it to him. So
yeah, tag him in a YouTube comment on Instagram, whatever.
Right. Well, I mean, we tried to reach out to him, but we just got lost in the inbox of, DMs from people all over the world. So we're not big enough that he can really like pay attention to us. So we're hoping that our audience can sort of raise it to his attention, and maybe he sees the video, and we just want to send him the board that we made. So
right.
Anyway, we're kind of excited for that, and just to see what comes out of that.
It was really
at the time of this recording, we haven't even published the video, so I don't know if it's flopping or if it's doing really well.
Right. It'll be a mystery. We'll figure it out later. But it was really fun to make the video, at least, because we kind of mimicked his video style.
Well, that's what we did. So when we first started on YouTube, all we did was copy other YouTubers. Like intentionally, we never published these videos, but like it had been a long time since I had edited a video, and my video editing was not that great when I was editing videos in like high school and stuff. So it was really cool to like emulate other people's editing styles, and to do that again, it was fun. It was way more work than our process.
Yes, because you're trying to mimic a style that you don't typically do, because we have our own style for videos that we do week to week, and so we're so used to that, and that's how we film, that's how we record.
And there's some things that are automatic when you go through an editing workflow. There's jokes or like editing tricks that each editor has that you just develop over time, and you know how to do it in 30 seconds. Like I'm sure his editor, or I don't think Josh edits his own videos, but his editor or whoever, like he does these funny like face modulation jokes. It looks like a face filter that like swells his face up, like Snapchat has or whatever. But it took us forever to figure out how to do those. But I'm sure his editor just has like a drag and drop preset on how to do it.
That's not a thing that we typically do in our video style.
So, video took a little longer, but we'll see if it works.
It was fun.
Yeah, it was just a lot of fun to try.
But yeah, if you guys can help us out, that would be awesome, because we are just trying to like come at him like full force with our audience and be like, hey, we just want to get you a cutting board.
Right.
Here you go, friend.
Right. As a thank you. So like cooking YouTube has exploded this year because of COVID. Everybody's at home and they want to cook. And so these cooking YouTubers are getting really, really famous. So we just want to say thank you and make a nice cutting board. And we're not really looking for anything in return. We're just trying to put positive energy into the world.
I mean, we really did like his videos, and a lot of them did inspire us to start cooking more or trying something new while we were cooped up in quarantine or whatever. So
right. So anyway, there was that. When we made his board, we tried out a couple of suggestions that we'd gotten on YouTube of trying to make the boards faster. So when we made 100 or 50 cutting boards, we made 50 cutting boards in like a week or so. We cut every piece of wood down to like 18 inches, which is roughly
the length
what the
of a board.
Right. Mm-hmm. And people were saying, keep your boards longer until the end. Do your glue up and everything, and then cut 3 or 4 boards out of the longer glue up.
Right. And we thought that'd be a good idea. We're like, that checks.
It makes perfect sense in theory, but when we did it this time, there was so much inconsistency in cutting the wood, and like wood has tension in it, so it like bends like a floppy French fry as you cut it and into smaller pieces, and you have to continually keep milling it to keep it flat and straight and square, so that when you're putting the people watching on YouTube are getting this, but podcasters are not. When you put 2 boards together, if they're not perfectly straight, one is going to bow, and you're going to have a gap. And there's only so much pressure you can use to clamp them together to get rid of that gap. You just have to keep milling the wood. So, long story short, that method requires so much extra milling. It was a huge waste of material.
Right. Like our boards, once we glued them up, they ended up being a good like 2 to 3 inches
smaller
shorter
than we were expecting.
Yeah.
I mean, it was the equivalent. Yeah. So there was so much extra waste that for on the old procedure, every 5 boards that we would make, with this new procedure, there was 1 board of complete waste. Right. So we're losing what 0.125. No, what's 1/5? I don't know.
1/5. What is it?
Whatever.
0.2,
we're losing 1/5.
20%?
Yeah, 0.2. We're losing 1/5 extra more material Or we're reducing our yield by 20%. Jeez, I didn't think about it
Which
that
is a
way.
big deal because think about the entire cost of that material. Like
Right.
if we spend $1,000 in material for all these boards,
and our yield is 20% lower, that's a big difference.
that's
So,
$200.
yeah, it takes more time to mill the lumber that way, but we get more boards out of it. So,
But not that much. I really don't feel like it saved us all that much time.
right, that's what I'm saying. And like, even if we were to do this, the time savings would not be worth the 20% loss in material,
Right.
especially because wood prices are going back up.
Yeah.
So
it was a great thought, like in theory, I guess. But it just, unfortunately,
those of you
it
that are
didn't
not
work for
woodwork.
us. But we thought it was such a good idea. We're like, wow, the next time we build boards, we need to try this method because people are onto something. And I don't know, maybe it would work better if we weren't batching out so many at a time. I don't know.
sorry for those of you that are not woodworkers. This is
I know this is quite the woodworking
a little
rant.
bit of inside baseball sort of stuff. But anyway.
Like I said, it was a week of cutting boards. Good week. Moving on.
Yeah. Well, with that train wreck, let's just move into the title topic for today because
Yes.
we got quite a bit to talk about. So let's do the little transition jingle. All right, can I do the quote this time? You've done it the last few times.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm willing to hand over the quote to you.
Thank you. This
You're
episode's quote is from David Allen. If you don't know, he's got a great book. We'll link it in the show notes called Getting Things Done. Prolific book in the realm of like organizing and scheduling. I couldn't read the whole book. I'm sorry. It was too much for me. It was
Too much detail and
too
like
much detail,
organization and
too much. Like, I'm sorry. It was just too much for me. I took some nuggets out of the book, but it's such a long, thick book about a topic like organizing that I am so uninterested about. It's insane. Anyway, David Allen gets our quote this week. If you don't pay appropriate attention to what has your attention, it will take more of your attention than it deserves.
Ooh.
So
I think we should read that one twice.
in English, I'll just give you my interpretation.
Okay, there we
of
go.
it, is if you're not looking out for what is grabbing your attention, it's going to take way more of your time than it should. If you're not being intentional about what is getting your attention, you're going to spend way too much time on it. And I know for a fact that we fall into that trap all the time.
You want to know why I know? Because the screen time application on your cell phone.
Oh man, yeah. Every Sunday
Do you
at
ever
church,
get so shocked?
everybody who's got an iPhone, every Sunday morning while we're in church, our iPhone buzzes and tells the whole world how much time we've spent and what app and screen time and all that stuff. The iPhone just like breaks it down and like you start to feel
It's
guilty.
like, this is how many hours you spent on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube. And granted, yes, like we run a lot of our business on social media. So
what a
like
great excuse.
that's why we're on. But exactly. But like there's no excuse for how much we use. Like even running a social media business, like, oh my gosh. But I say all that to say is like, if you're not documenting it, kind of like screen time does for you, you don't realize and you are kind of shocked. Like, you've got to be joking. I spent 7 hours on TikTok this week. Are you kidding?
Right. So that's the quote this week, is just to be intentional about where you're spending your attention.
Yep.
Because time will run away from you. So what do we mean by quit remembering, Jenny? That's our title topic today. That's the title of this episode, is quit remembering. What do we mean by that?
Yes. So basically we're saying find a way to not depend on your memory.
But,
you know, like
but I'm smart.
I know you could be so smart. You could be Einstein, but I guarantee you Einstein probably made himself lists and checklists and to-do lists, even though he was a genius.
Well, he was the guy that got lost walking home.
Exactly. So I mean, he was a genius and he couldn't even keep his walk home organized, even though, you know, whatever. So we're saying, don't tell yourself, oh, I'll remember it. You know, I have to stop doing my little, oh, this was such a great idea. There's no way I could forget it. Stop relying on your own brain, because even if it is wonderful, it's going to fail some percentage of the time.
Right. And if such a critical part of what you're trying to do depends on something that fails all the time, like we talk about this all the time, like don't build on a moving foundation. We talk about that with emotions a lot, but like with planning, if your brain is flaky, if your brain is not going to be an iron trap of a memory, some of you can, but like most of us can't. And so
we really can't.
we fall into the trap of, we think we're the type of person that can, but when you look at the scoreboard, we can't. Mm-hmm. So do a little bit of self-evaluation to see, like, can you really remember everything, or do you just think that you can? So
yeah.
Have a moment of self-reflection and then decide, like, I'm not going to build on a moving foundation. My memory is so poor that I don't want anything in my business to depend on my memory, because I know my memory is going to fail. And so do you really want to tie failure, knowing that your memory is going to fail? Do you really want to tie failure to what it is you're trying to do? It's at any level. Like you're just, I don't know, to me, like if you're trying to remember everything or you're depending on your brain, you're already admitting defeat at some point along the way of whatever you're trying to accomplish, whether it's changing jobs, getting a better relationship, like whatever it is. If you're depending on your brain, which your brain short circuits sometimes, we all have brain farts. Mm-hmm. Like you're using a broken tool and saying, "Yep, I'll figure it out."
Yes. Oh my gosh, this makes me think of like, have you ever had a laptop that you've had for like years and years and years and like it still works, not the greatest, and then it starts to go and you're like, no, it'll be fine. Like I can usually get it working. And then the night you had like a big paper due in college or something and your laptop that was the time it just chose not to work. And you swear that it's fine. And then it fails you like when you need it most. I've been there. That's how I feel like my brain is. It's a laptop that's on its last leg that I refused to upgrade. Yeah, get rid of and upgrade.
So you're building on a broken foundation. Yeah, you got to upgrade. So what we're trying to say with this is like your brain, as magnificent and brilliant as all of you are, your brain is not a reliable information storer, producer, because you're just always going to forget stuff. So as painful as it is, and it was painful to us, like find a way not to depend on your memory. Outsource that so that you can use your brain to problem solve instead of be an encyclopedia.
So what are we doing? Are we like writing stuff down? Are we?
Well, now you're jumping in the action steps. We got a little bit more to talk about before we go into that. But yeah. So the importance of writing things down. Well, one thing that you can do, real quick, is Tom Sachs, the artist in New York, and his little like film 10 Bullets or whatever. It's basically the 10 rules of his workshop for his art studio. He's kind of a quirky guy, so if you don't know who he is, like don't be surprised. He is an artist from New York, great guy. Really cool stuff that he does. He's pretty big in the maker community. He's got some good friends with some of the people that we're on YouTube next to. So what he does is he has a piece of paper, just a piece of computer paper, and like once a week or whenever, like he just gets a new piece of paper, and anytime he has a thought or something that needs to be addressed or thought out or spent more time on, he'll write it down. Mm-hmm. Whether that's a to-do list, whether that's go pick up milk, whether that's I need to think about how I'm going to schedule this email. I need to think about how I'm going to, like when I'm going to call back my mom or somebody that I missed their phone call. Like anything and everything goes on this one piece of paper. And as long as that piece of paper stays in his pocket, he doesn't have to remember anything, because at the end of the day, he opens the paper up and he sees everything that he needs to do and he addresses it. So that's one method that you can do, is just simply just write it down. Jennie, you did this for a while.
Yes, I was just about to say, I used this method for kind of a while, especially at my last job. I would keep a piece of like white printer paper folded up into quarters in my like uniform pocket, and then I'd write things down as I remembered them. It'd be to-do lists or reminders, whatever. And then when that one would get full, I'd just flip it over until like the next clean side was showing. And it was definitely helpful. I remembered a lot of stuff at the end of the day that I would have forgotten had I not written it down. The only thing is I had kind of a faulty follow-up, or I wasn't quite as neat as I needed to be with that piece of paper, because I would lose it. I'd leave it on my desk.
Let me paint my version of that story.
Oh, no.
You had at any given
Please don't.
You had at any given time about 10 to 15 of these pieces of paper, and they were littered.
Have you ever seen ABU uniform pockets? I have like 16 pockets.
No, you've had your chance. You've had 10 to 15 of these pieces of paper littered around your entire life. They were in the office, they were in your car, they were on the kitchen island, they were on your nightstand, they were literally everywhere. I could not, like, literally, it was a breadcrumb trail. If I wanted to find you, all I'd have to do is go from one slip of paper. It was like scrap, like old, like water bills and stuff. She would like scribble stuff on the back. It wasn't a clean piece of computer paper like she made it sound.
So a key part of that is, one, keep it in your pocket and make sure it's just one piece of paper.
I'd go to throw away like last month's electric bill or something because we didn't need it anymore. I got paid, and then Jennie would come out. Where did you put my list? I don't know what I'm supposed to do at work tomorrow. Thank you. Like, it just, anyway, it was just a poor method of keep. So that's at least a start. So I'm kicking your butt, but like that was at least a start. So you got to start somewhere, make a baby step.
Yes.
But maybe try to just limit yourself to one piece of paper.
And now I don't even use any pieces of paper anymore. Aren't you proud of me?
Right. So we'll get into what we do now with our business and everything else, because we got to get ready. We're preparing for employees to come into our lives and help us manage things and, take other parts of responsibility of our businesses. So we have to build on a platform that will work for multiple people. We'll get into that in a minute, but it's also working flawlessly for us.
Yep.
It's been one of the greatest discoveries in the last 10 years for both of us, but
Absolutely.
We'll get there. Another thing, if your memory is really good, so one of the ways that you can train your memory is called a memory palace. Have you heard of this?
Yes, I have.
So not everybody can do it. And I know a lot of people are upset because I just said that, but for the visual learner, of course, now everybody thinks they're a visual learner, but for the people that can close your eyes and very clearly recall images in your head.
If you're driving, please don't try this. Right. Keep your eyes open, please.
Not necessarily a photographic memory, but those of you with a very creative imagination, you can close your eyes. You have an inner monologue going, just lots of psychology to unpack there. But if you were the visual type of person where you can remember pictures and video clips in your head instead of I'm not talking audio, a lot of people hear voices and sounds in their head, but I'm talking visual kind of recall. If that's the type of memory that you have, one of the techniques people can use is called a memory palace. And you tie thoughts, emotions, pictures, images to certain pieces of information. I used to do this in college before I had a final. I'd have to memorize a ton of different equations and stuff like that for the physics classes that we were taking. And to remember the formulas, I would think of a hippopotamus riding a unicycle over the hill, and I went into this barn, and each element, you're gonna think I'm crazy. Well, you already think I'm crazy, but each element was tied to a certain term of the equation. So I remember the hippo was P, which is the Greek
Momentum.
letter rho, right?
Oh, rho.
And so you would just start to remember all of these parts of the equation based on how ridiculous the little image in your head is.
So in your head, you're telling me you'd be thinking of E equals MC squared, and you'd be alligator, hippopotamus, cat, Christmas tree,
yeah,
Santa.
Because I could remember that so much easier than I could just remember the string of letters.
That's nutty.
And also if you ever had to remember, I don't know, I would just remember I took a history class right near graduation, and I couldn't for the life of me remember dates and places and stuff.
Oh, same. Oh,
and
my
so
gosh.
I just imagined this really long hallway, and every decade had a different room. Every bedroom down this hallway was a different decade. And so I would stuff all the people and all the things that I could remember about that decade in that room. So then I would walk down the imaginary hallway, open the door, see what was in it. It's nope, wasn't that decade, and then kept walking down the hallway so I could recall these facts when I was writing my final paper or whatever during the final.
Yeah.
It sounds crazy, but it works for some of us that have sort of a looser visual memory. So that's a technique. There's all sorts of TED Talks and Google stuff that you can find out about memory palaces, but that's been traditionally a way for people to remember things. That's why stories work so well. The Iliad and the Odyssey, it was a couple hundred years before they were ever written down. They were just verbal stories that were passed, and the imagery is what passes the lessons along. So
yeah,
humanity has a long history of these crazy, silly stories to remember key lessons or things like that. So anyway, enough of the crazy hippie talk.
Yes.
Let's get back down to earth. So our technique for how we really ingest information, filter ideas, basically any amount of chaos that comes at us. The Getting Things Done book by David Allen really focuses on one of the principles of you need to have a place for incoming chaos. Wherever it is in your life, whether it's your job, your personal life, your business, whatever it is, you need to have an inbox and a systematic way to deal with information that comes at you from anything.
And that doesn't mean that you're solving the problem now or addressing the chaos. It just needs a resting place where it belongs and you can pick it up later.
Right. Or give it the time when it deserves the time, because you can't drop everything and go from distraction to distraction to distraction. I mean, that's when you unlock your phone. You meant to go text your mom, but then you got on Instagram, which led you to Snapchat, and then you went to TikTok for an hour, and then you forgot to call your mom back, and now she's mad. So help yourself out. Have an inbox and a procedure for everything that you do. So What we have developed is we use the Google suite of software to basically run our business. Even the script I'm reading for this podcast right now is in a Google Doc that's accessible from any smart device anywhere in the world.
Yep.
Google has a product called Google Keep, which is basically their own version of like sticky notes or Evernote. And it's fantastic. So every area of our lives has a sticky note in this app. And Jennie and I are both signed into it. So like we have a personal sticky note where things are like the grocery list or meal prep ideas and things like that go.
We have Air Force sticky notes for things we have to keep track of for our Air Force jobs. What else? We have a Jennie and Davis Post-it note. We have a Samara Post-it note. Gosh, what other ones? Oh, we have a sticky note where we like to keep track of different quotes. So if we're somewhere reading a book or, a movie or whatever, and we hear a quote, we're like, ooh, that's really good. I want to remember that for later. We don't just, write on a piece of paper and throw it on the kitchen counter. We put it on the quote sticky note.
Right. So we have about 10 to 15 sticky notes in this app that get updated. Now, in each sticky note, there's the title of the sticky note, so we know what category that is. And then in the sticky note, there's two sections. There's three sections, I guess. There's an inbox section, which is just loose ideas. So if I get, let's say for Jennie and Davis, if we have a crazy awesome YouTube video idea, like this Josh Weissman cutting board, I would type in I would pull my phone out and I would type in, as soon as I get the idea, I would type in the inbox and I would say, Josh Weissman, build him a cutting board for video. And that's it. I would just be one line. And the inbox is for things that we will address later when we have time to wrap our brains around it, to think through it, to consider if we even want to do it or not. That's where your ugly ducklings go. If you have a crazy idea and you don't know if it's good or not, it goes in the inbox. You can come back to it later.
And then the next category or the next section of that Post-it note is to schedule. And that's the stuff that have passed. Those are the things that have passed the litmus test of like the inbox. We're like, okay, that's not a crazy idea. That's actually something that we need to pursue. Now we need to put it in this list because it's got to make it onto our calendar to actually accomplish.
Some things go straight to the to schedule thing. Like if I need a haircut, if I'm looking in the mirror and I realize I need to get a haircut, I'll just immediately put that in the schedule thing of, say, Davis needs to get a haircut. And then we have a schedule. This is kind of overlapping with the next thing, but in Google Calendar, we have a weekly block on Sunday evenings where we go through and we look through all these notes, all 15 notes. We look at the inbox. We address the ideas. We're like, hey, do we want to think about this now or do we want to come back to it later? And then we take all the things that are in the to schedule and we go through our Google Calendar and we schedule those things for that week. So all this chaos coming in, mom calls or
there's a hurricane and we have to go fly. We want to make a new cutting board. We have 18 new YouTube video ideas.
All of these things coming at us in life have a systemized, organized way that they go into our life so that we don't, number one, forget anything. It's all written down on Google Keep. And the second thing is that we have appropriately scheduled things when they need to be addressed. We're not going thing to thing to thing to thing to thing and then, oh my gosh, we've just wasted 10 hours and I haven't even worked on what I was excited to wake up for today.
Right.
So that's why if you've ever heard the advice, like don't ever check your email first thing in the morning. Get your work done before you check your email because your email is going to bring you so many problems that you're not going to get any other work done. So we're kind of getting into action steps. But
yes.
Anyway, that is our system, is that we have all these different notes for each category of our lives. And as we get ideas and as we think of things, we put them in the right bucket and then we schedule time once a week to sort through the bucket and either throw stuff out or schedule when we want to start executing on it.
Yep. And again, that's Google Keep and Google Calendar. Those are the two tools we use.
Yep. So I think it's like keep.google.com and calendar.google.com. We are not sponsored by Google, unfortunately. So another thing that we do is we have marker boards, like whiteboards, all over the house. We got one in the studio right here. We've got one in the shop. You've seen us use in YouTube videos. We've got like one sitting in the back corner of the living room. Like anytime that we don't have anything going on or we're trying to sort through one of these lists, it really helps us because we're visual people to write things out, to draw it out, to like outline it with bullet points because like a paper, like sometimes you don't write something down on paper because it's too much of a commitment to write it down. But on a whiteboard, it's easily erasable. So you can it's a better tool for brainstorming because you don't like judge yourself for writing it down. There's no threshold for writing it down because you can just wipe it away.
And then you don't have pieces of paper thrown everywhere. The whiteboard is static in one place.
Right. So when we're working stuff out, or we're determining how we're going to how are we going to translate it from the inbox to schedule into a list of organized tasks, we'll use the whiteboard to break it into smaller chunks. So that's something else that you can consider doing.
But we've alluded to it enough. I say we jump into the action steps.
Yeah, so let me just sum this up really quick, and we can get into the action steps. I know it sounds like we're going to be giving you more stuff to do, but I promise, I don't know what I'm going to give you if I break the promise, but I promise that if you have a better inbox system, you are actually increasing your free time. Mm-hmm. This will so quickly open up more time for you to do things. And I like, the reason I feel bad about this is because we always say quit doing stuff in the action steps, or let's quit podcasts. That's our whole goal. And I know we're asking you in these action steps to sort of start doing things.
Yeah.
But I promise you, if you start these things, you're going to quit remembering, which is going to open up more time for you. I guess that's all I'm trying to say.
So it's a roundabout way to say, we're going to help you quit relying on your mind so much.
Time.
Yeah.
Like that's literally like our one action step is quit wasting time. Now here's a few ways that you can get more time back, even if it requires just a tiny bit more effort. So the first one, Jenny.
First action step is stop remembering everything, right? That's what we've been talking about this whole time. Try out an inbox system for yourself for 1 week, whether that's Google Keep, whether that's Evernote, a planner, a piece of paper in your pocket. Try out something, some new sort of tactic just for a week.
Right.
And see how it goes.
As thoughts occur to you, just write them down, and you never have to remember them again. All you got to do is once a week, pull out your piece of paper, go through your phone, and figure out how you're going to address these ideas. And it's totally okay to throw the idea out. Say, I was really jazzed about it at the time, but after reflecting on it for a few days, I don't think it's that great of an idea.
Yep, that's the whole point of the system.
Right. And then the second action step is to turn off all notifications and distractions. This one is straight up like stop doing stuff. This we picked up from The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. It is called the low information diet. He goes like to the extreme, but sometimes that's what you need when you're working on a busy project. So basically, like, schedule a time. So first, step one, turn off all notifications on your phone.
Text messages, emails.
Literally.
Facebook, Instagram.
You can go through your iPhone settings. Like, if there's people for emergencies, you can put a small list of contacts that it will get through no matter what, the do not disturb feature or whatever. So obviously take care of your responsibilities there, but turn off all notifications. Even if you like all of the night, it would be nice to know when I'm mentioned on Instagram. Turn that off. You do not need to know about that. It is going to steal your attention away from whatever it is you're working really hard on.
Yep.
So we do that first. Schedule a time to look through your email. Do not read your inbox first thing in the morning. That is going to distract you from so much stuff that you're trying to do that day. We've developed this philosophy in the Air Force. So the best hours of the day for your brain are from like 8 to 11 a.m.
Yep.
That's like peak brain performance for just about everybody, painting in broad strokes. We did not want to let the Air Force have the best hours of our day, because the work we were doing was not that critical. It was not that, it was important, but it didn't require that much brain power. It just required a body and somebody to do paperwork, basically. So I just had it that I was not going to allow the Air Force to have the best hours of my day. So I woke up at 4 a.m. so that my peak mental hours could be spent editing videos and doing YouTube stuff before I went into work. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that way the Air Force is getting, or your job is getting, your garbage time that you don't need your peak mental performance. You can spend that on things that you want to focus your attention on. So schedule, I'm like three things deep on this, but just all I'm trying to say is turn off your notifications, schedule your emails for when you want to check them, not when somebody else wants you to check them.
Whenever is best. Schedule it when it's best for you personally. Also,
return phone calls when it's convenient for you. Jenny and I, we turn our phones off day to day. We don't answer phone calls, not from our job, not from our family. We have a very short list of people that we will answer if they call out of the blue because it's probably an emergency. But even that, work on your families too. Just let them know that hey, I'm not always going to be answering my phone right now. If it's an emergency, I'll pick up, but I'm busy. I got stuff to do. I'm trying to build a business. I'm trying to change career fields. I'm trying to make the world a better, like I got important stuff to do. So you really need to prioritize and let you dictate your schedule. Don't let your schedule dictate you, I guess is what
I feel like as humans, we are so like, I don't know, wired to naturally consume what we see. Like when something pops up in front of us, we can't help but like see it and take it in or hear it or smell it or taste it. Like that's what the human body is meant to do, is to take in the information and process it. So we have to like physically limit how much we're taking in. Otherwise we're going to go crazy. So really all we're saying is like, we need to take responsibility of the fact that, you know, you're going to think about and consume pretty much anything that's in front of you. So control what gets in front of you.
And a lot of people here will try to say like, don't watch the news. I don't know that I want to like tell people don't watch the news, because sometimes that's related to your job. Like if you, especially if you work in media, like that's part of your thing. So I'm not telling you like, don't listen to the news. Only allow yourself to read the news or watch the news or listen to the news that you are going to take action on. Like, do not be reading about stuff over in Timbuktu where you can't do anything about it. Literally, if it does not change your weekly actions, I would not listen to it. And that's just my personal opinion. That's how I live my life. You do whatever you want. But if you want to quit being distracted by things, if you don't want something else to control your emotions and your thoughts, you're going to have to put up barriers on what you will and won't let in the gate. And I'm saying, like with the news, very, very little news changes what we're going to do day to day. So how important is it to you? Is your goal more important or staying up to date on current events? What's more important to you? Because they're constantly in competition with each other. And if you're okay with slowing your goals down because you want to be caught up on the news, okay, go for it. But if you really want to like change career paths and do that as fast as possible, you're going to have to cut some stuff out. And for a lot of people, staying up to date with the news is an area where you can actually save so much time, because 99% of the news doesn't change anything about your life. And the 1% that does, you're going to hear about it from other sources. You're not going to miss anything. Like your friends and family will update you if you miss something huge in the world. So you don't need permission to like quit listening to the news. It's okay. The world is going to keep turning.
Oh, absolutely it will. Yeah.
So anyway, that's all we got to say. So our 2 action steps: stop remembering everything. Just try some inbox system out for a week. And then number 2, turn off all notifications, distractions. Intentionally schedule your attention. Don't just let life happen to you whenever it does.
Exactly.
So, man, that was deep. That was pretty heavy.
Yes.
Sorry for this one. This is really important to us. Like this took us years to finally like.
After so many failures of like not controlling where we put our attention and getting so overwhelmed and stressed out or upset over something that it kept us from doing something more important. Like, you know, we'd take in too much information, or we'd get stressed and then we wouldn't want to film a YouTube video, or we'd have a late upload, or we wouldn't have time to finish a build that somebody had commissioned us for.
It really is just deciding what's most important to you and then actually like making that reflective in your calendar. Like you say something's important to you. Is it getting more time on the calendar? That like, that's the question. And so hopefully we've given you some tools to answer it. Do we have any announcements? Oh, yes, we do.
Yes. Next week, we're sharing our very first friend with you on the podcast. So we will have a guest next week, and it's going to be RJ McCullum. He is an entrepreneur. He is a member of the Stud Stack, which is our private Facebook group for people who want to start a business with what they make. And he has a great lesson on how to quit overthinking.
Yeah, so we'll see you back next week for that episode. Other than that, take care, have a great week, and we'll catch you on the next one.